Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
RoadToRooted.com. I'm going to do something a little different today. It is Sunday the 28th of September. We are coming to, I'm in 2025 right now. We're coming to the end of the fiscal year of the United States. Nothing is going to be approved. They don't even have meetings for it. Congress isn't even in session. But that's not the reason silver is really running right now. And this is going to be about silver. The reason silver is running is because of the 170-year price suppression. Silver is being misallocated into things that it never should have been involved in. Solar panels, for example. I'm not saying I'm against solar. I'm not against solar. I'm against the fact that they are using hundreds of millions of ounces of very precious silver in solar panels. They have ways to make different kind of solar panels, and they will do that. But they won't do it with silver being sitting here at $46, which is 92% of its 1980 all-time high. So because silver has been suppressed for so long, it is being misallocated, and it turned into a very bizarre world where we throw away flat screen TVs that are a couple years old. We throw away cell phones every couple of years. It's just the insanity of the misallocation of price means it's not misallocation of silver, but the price has been suppressed. It's not the real fair market value. And it's not $4,600. It's not $46,000. It's not $46 million. Nobody knows the true price of silver, the true fair market value of silver. It could be any of those numbers. It could be minus $40 like they did with oil. But they are pricing the value, and everybody gets their price from the COMEX, which is a futures and options exchange controlled 99% by a handful of bullion banks and the U.S. government and the European government, and everybody knows that they're all in on the con. But now that con is breaking down, and mainly because we are running out of silver for those industries that it's being misallocated to. It seems very obvious. If you keep a price down too low for too long, it will go into places where it shouldn't be going, and all of a sudden, we're addicted to throwing away cell phones. We're addicted to throwing away flat screen TVs. We're addicted to making as much solar panel to span the entire globe with solar panels. India just came out and said that they have 5 times as much places they can, 5 times as much mini miles and footage and square miles of places that would be perfect for solar than they thought they had. So they want to catch up with China. Are you kidding me? And then we have the accomplices in this fraud, the Silver Institute, who keeps lying about the amount of silver being used in solar. I'll get to that in a second. But right now, if you're a silver investor, if you're just learning about silver, all you have to think about is supply and demand. We're using so much silver in AI, in electric cars, and every car, by the way. Every car is increasing every year the amount of silver they use, no matter what the experts at the Silver Institute say. There's more backup cameras. There's more in regular cars. There's more monitoring devices within your car. Everything that is electronic needs a little bit of silver and uses a little tiny bit of silver. So let me go through a couple of things that are happening right now. And again, we're near the end of the fiscal year. Something big is coming, and it's going to be very scary for a lot of people. I think it has to do with the global monetary system, but silver is the bank killer. Silver has been abused mainly these days by JP Morgan Chase, but also by HSBC for the last 140 years since the Opium Wars. And those are the two big shorts right now. JP Morgan might have physical obligations that justify their shorts. They are the custodian of SLV silver. It doesn't mean it's theirs. It just means they hold it and they lease it out and they rent it out and they rehypothecate it. So SLV will close, and you'll get nothing if you're invested in SLV. You'll get nothing if you're invested in anything outside of physical silver in your own possession. When the whole system shuts down, First of all, Mexico is going to shut off all their mining for foreigners, definitely. Don't get me wrong, I loved mining companies years ago until I understood just how big this problem was. The problem isn't a couple banks messing with the price. The problem is the entire world has been conned into believing something that was not true. That silver is abundant. Silver is should be 1/80th the price of gold. People talk to me about, Bix, do you ever think the price of gold and silver will go back to 15 to 1 like it should be? And I'm like, it shouldn't be 15 to 1. Back when it was 15 to 1, there was 15 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold above ground that we're trading. That was the cornerstone of how they determined how many, and it depended on what area you were living. The numbers obviously were set by the governments, the powers that be, but they based it off how much was available of each. Now we're in a completely different world. There's no silver left. We've used it in all the electronic components we've built since the early 1900s, the Industrial Revolution. Silver all of a sudden got used. The more research I do into the Manhattan Project, where they, quote, borrowed silver from the U.S. Treasury that was backing all the silver certificates, so it had to be kept secret, and they've admitted to the secret. Some people say it's 150 tons. No, it isn't. 150 million ounces. It isn't. So far, I've got at least 800 million ounces, and it wasn't shut down right after the Manhattan Project ended. That was the dumbest thing. Use common sense. You just invented the most important weapon in human history, and you're going to shut it down to put silver back in the vault because you borrowed it in the next year or two? No, it wasn't done like that. As a matter of fact, most of it wasn't done at all. There was some done in the early 70s, about 150 million ounces. There was some done in the mid 90s. That was the bigger one when they shut down Oak Ridge, Tennessee facility. But there's probably still some there because they still make some, at least I think they do. But most of it came out in the 90s, and all that silver was integrated and used, and that's where all this secret silver came from. The U.S. had, 3 billion ounces of silver in 1980 when it peaked. Now it has 0. And most of the exchanges, all that silver you see in the exchanges, in their inventories, they're rehypothecated. They're owned by multiple entities, especially the COMEX that claims to have 500 million, and the LBMA has 700-800 million. Well, there's supposed to be 540 million in SLV, and they are required to keep them in COMEX warehouses. You see where we're getting to? So what should the gold-silver ratio be? Probably at least 1 to 1. 1 ounce of silver buys you 1 ounce of gold. And why do I say that? According to the official numbers, there's an equal amount of each. There's about 6 billion ounces that could possibly come out at any time. And they're not in, that's if we melt down all the silverware everywhere, all the fillings everywhere. And that's not going to be done. So physical silver that's available on the exchanges, in COMEX type bars, I don't know, there's under 500 million. Probably under 100 million. We just got rid of 70 million in this month's on the COMEX. Now, a lot of it stays in there. It just goes from hand to hand because many of these banks are short, and they're like, oh my God, I can either buy back the short position, or I can get physical silver and just hand over the silver, which HSBC has been the big deliverer of physical silver. Game is all controlled and rigged by the computers that have been manipulating prices for so long. But the reality now is not down to the price of silver. No one's going to care about the price of silver if you can't get it. If you're a manufacturer who's making solar panels, for example, or making electric cars, for example, or making regular cars, for example, and you can't get physical silver, the first thing you're going to do is stock up on what you can get. I want to buy everything you can get, especially under $50. Over $50, it's, Katie bar the doors. You know why? Right here. A cup and handle that's been brewing since 1971. This is the biggest cup and handle in history as far as I know. I'm not a technical trader guy. As a matter of fact, I know they use technical analysis to fake people out, and they have been since the invention of computers and derivatives. There was a company called EWT LLC. It really stood for Elliott Wave Theory. That was the king of technical analysis. But the company that ran it was a Bernie Madoff partner. Is now called Virtu Financial. They never lost money on any trade any day in the last like 10 years. It was crazy when they went public. And they went public because they had to run, because they were market riggers. They're an authorized participant in SLV. Why is a high frequency trading company being an authorized participant in a physical ETF? There's no reason for that, other than they are the biggest. They assist in the rigging. Vinny Viola runs that company, by the way, still. His partner, Bernie Madoff, got taken down, but Vinny's still out there doing his bullshit market manipulation. So here we are. All of a sudden, I'm a believer in the technical analysis. Why? Because this is the biggest technical analysis coup in history. The cup and handle is like famous for the tech guys. When it breaks over $50, I think it's $48. 50 is like the mental part, because it bumped up against 50 in 1980. It bumped up against 50 in 2011. 1980 was the Hunt brothers, and then the COMEX changed the rules, so it made it really, really hard for the Hunt brothers or anybody to buy any silver on the COMEX with leverage, and that's why the price went from $50 down below $5. And then in 2011, that was Jamie Dimon's doing with J.P. Morgan Chase. When they got the Bear Stearns silver short position, they screwed up. Bart Chilton even admitted that J.P. Morgan was way offsides, illegal, and all that. But in 2011, Jamie Dimon put a guy named Bill Daley as Obama's chief of staff. Who is Bill Daley? He's the head of the J.P. Morgan SWAT team. Whenever there's a problem, he's got 3 or 4 guys he throws at the problem. So as soon as Bill Daley got in office, the price of silver went from $25 to $50. It was allowed to go up. And then JP Morgan was shorting the whole time. It got up over probably 35 or so. And then they slammed it, creating an artificial bear market it's still literally, we still haven't hit $50. That's why it's so big now. We're running out of physical silver. We're hitting all the technical trader marks. We have a government that will not agree on a budget. We have a mass printing by the Fed as they lower interest. There is not one thing, when you look at silver, not one thing that has any view out into the future that will be a downdraft for silver. The only thing that's a downdraft for silver is the price manipulation on the COMEX, the futures and options. And from the COT numbers, which I will be analyzing for the private road members after I do this, with the COT numbers, last I saw, they aren't shorting. They aren't massive shorting like they did in 2011. Like they probably did in 1980, but computer trading wasn't as big back in 1980. It was there. Alan Greenspan had already invented it, but it wasn't as big and absolutely running the entire markets like it is today, as run by Virtu Financial and Vinny Viola. So here we are. The end of the road for a 50-year chart of silver, creating the biggest cup and handle in history. And what's going to stop it? Are they going to stop making electric cars? No. They're going to continue to increase. Every year, Americans especially say, oh, no, electric cars are going down. Bix, you don't know what you're talking about. And then we keep selling more and more and more. As a percentage of last year, we're going to sell more this year. Oh, by the way, the rest of the world wants what we have. China's got the biggest electric car company in the world. You don't even know about it. You mean it's not Tesla? No, it's not Tesla. Look it up. So more and more. And AI is just massive electronics, which means massive more silver. There is not one category in silver. When you look at the World Silver Survey, this is the biggest fraud perpetrated on a silver investor. It's embarrassing. Look at the demand they had for industrial going down 0.5%. Demand overall is going to be down 1% in 2025. We already know that solar's up 64% from in the first half of 2025. Solar installations were up 64%. That is the biggest. They have solar going down 1%. And I've been screaming about these jackasses for a very long time, and they know they're lying. That's the thing that gets me. They know they're lying, and they know there's no other competing survey out there. People just relied on this, and it's just one guy, Mike DiRenzo, getting it from one company, Metals Focus, and pretending that it's a real number. And I've showed many times they go back and change the past of their numbers just to make it fit. Now we know we're up 64% in photovoltaics, and they had it down 1% on the year. What are they going to do now? Is there any thrifting, meaning taking silver out? There is, but they're also adding more TopCon, which has more silver than the PERC in the past. So, the good thing is you can go into Grok and ask. Let's just look at the silver survey. They had photovoltaics. The forecast was 195.7 million ounces, just under 200 million ounces. That's what they're saying. Let's ask Grok. PV solar installations were up 64% in the first half of 2025. Project the total installs for 2025. So it projected out the total installs, and it came out to 874 gigawatts DC. That's a lot. Since last year, we only did 600, but we are on that pace. China, this is all China and India and every other country but the U.S., by the way. The U.S. doesn't matter when it comes to solar. It really doesn't. We're talking industrial solar farms going in everywhere around the world. So if we do 874 gigawatts, that's DC, here's what I said. Given the above calculations, how much physical silver will be used in the photovoltaic industry in 2025? Note, do not use any data that originated or was referenced to the Silver Institute Silver Survey, because every time you ask Grok, they'll go, well, the Silver Survey says, and even people quote the Silver Survey all the time. I am instructing Grok to take out the Silver Survey. How much? Remember, they're at 195 million ounces was their forecast. Based on the trend-adjusted projections of 874 gigawatts of global PV installations in 2025, from the prior analysis, the estimated physical silver demand for PV can be calculated using recent industry benchmarks for silver intensity per watt. Let's just get to the bottom. I've run these calculations so many times. Result, 10,488 metric tons. Give me that in ounces right here. 337 million ounces is what is projected right here. Photovoltaics, 195. So they are off by 150 million ounces. Now, I think they're off by more, but that's okay. If you take out their analysis from every year that they keep changing every year, they're off by 150 million ounces of silver. And you know why that's massive? They had the net shortfall of the silver, the difference between supply and demand, coming in at 187, which should be, they had 210 million shortfall last year. They have 187. So we know 150 of that is going to be gone just for PV. But here's the other thing. We've heard the 3 big copper mines shut down that had about 25 to 30 million ounces of silver they were doing as well. So the supply side is gone too. So you can add another 30 million to that. And oh, by the way, ETFs. They had 70 million going into ETFs. 70 million. Where are we right now? We're in the end of September. We're at 135 million already. So this number that the Silver Institute said of a shortfall of was starting to go down at 187, that was their big idea. Okay, we'll give them a high number last year of the shortfall, but then we'll say over time it's going to creep down. It is not. It has doubled or even tripled. If you count everything not using the Silver Institute's numbers. So let's look at the ETFs. Oh, by the way, there's a was it 50 I think 58 million share short on SLV. That has to be closed at some time, right? Theoretically. I mean, I know the stock market is just as criminal as the commodity market, but that's a massive short position, meaning JP Morgan and BlackRock have not deposited the silver that silver SLV investors bought shares for. Like I said, get rid of your SLV, get the real thing, get physical in your own possession, get rid of your mining shares. I get that they have so much value in the ground. I get it. But the very moment that JP Morgan shuts down their doors, which could be any day now for various reasons, including the Epstein stuff, you're going to see all the mining shares go to zero because everybody's going to nationalize. It just makes sense for Mexico, especially, who's been abused for so long. And China's already got two different types of stocks trading on their markets, one for domestic and one for the rest of the world. They could take that rest of the world and just throw it out and just have a domestic stock exchange. Probably, if they could use Reggie Middleton's, they probably have already stolen it, but Reggie Middleton's invention that is going to be playing a massive role in the future, I believe. After the rigors in their game, we're going to need a new system. And we're not going to go back to the IMF or the World Bank or any of those, the World Economic Forum. No, they've been exposed and they will be tossed. We'll be on our own. Scary, but hey, there are ways to move forward. So let's look at where did those shares come from? The 135 million ounces. I had a breakdown right here. So iShares Trust is up 37, is at 50 million ounces. That's run by BlackRock, probably the most criminal institution on the planet. Sprott, it's not run by Eric Sprott anymore. You guys need to know that. Added 25. If you have a gun pointed at you, you have to take one of them. I take Sprott all day long over BlackRock. Added 25 million ounces. Aberdeen Physical Silver added 15. Wisdom Tree Physical added 20. All the others, including Indian ETPs, like Nippon India Silver ETF. Everybody wants to be like the U.S. Everybody wants the electric cars. Everybody wants, the U.S. isn't solar, and we're gonna regret it because everybody in China who has solar power on the roof will be ripping down their solar power just to get the sprayed on little bit of silver out of those solar panels at some point. Probably, but that's the other thing. How high does silver have to go for them to stop making solar panels? I would say $1,000, $2,000 would make them say, well, right now it's only like 12% of the cost of a solar panel, and solar panels are massively too cheap. So it's going to take, it's that price inelasticity thing. It doesn't matter how high the price of silver goes, very little silver is going to be stopping going into manufacturing. They just pay more because you use such a 1/100th of an ounce in a cell phone. So at $1,000 silver, can Apple handle a 100th of an ounce of silver, which would be $10 added to the iPhone? Yeah. Would Elon stop, making his electric cars with the 2 ounces of silver, $2,000 more on a car? No, it won't. As far as solar panels, they're trying to invent ways to get silver out, and they're doing a decent job, but none of the solar manufacturing companies have enough money to do any, all this new research comes out. They don't know if it can last 35 years. But none of the companies that manufacture solar panels have any money to do any kind of complete change over their manufacturing line. And if you ask Grok, which I did, what is the most popular industrial solar panel that's being bought for the industrial side these days? And it gave me a Janko panel. I said, when was that technology invented? It said 2021 is when the lines went in. So the most silver in 2021, they were using about twice as much silver in those lines. So the whole concept that they're going to thrift out of the problem of massive expansion of solar is bullshit. And it has been bullshit for the last 5 years, except the Silver Institute and Jeff Christian and Metals Focus are lying. Completely, flat out lying to everybody. So you can take advantage of it. Buy as much silver as you can. All right, that's what I got. I'm going to go over the commitment of traders report. Really interesting time and interesting week to do it. I'm going to go over with private road members that stuff. You want to join the private road, go to roadroad.com. We're currently giving away until Tuesday. Tuesday ends this giveaway. A 1 ounce silver double struck Grand Canyon Ruta coin. Check it out. Coolest coin ever made. We give it away with a 1-year subscription or renewal. And last day will be Tuesday, which is the 30th of September, right before the first, when the U.S. ends its fiscal year. The chaos coming, I cannot underplay this. Cliff High's data has it going. It's bigger than 9/11. What's going to happen over the next couple of weeks? Get your physical silver in your possession now. Go to your local coin shop. If you don't have a local guy, contact our guy, Andy Scheckman. Send them an email, info@milesfranken.com, or give them a call. Go to their website, get their phone number. Don't buy online. Nobody buys online anymore. Those are higher. The prices are too high. Give them a call, and they'll get back to you, and they'll send you their inventory list, and you can buy off that inventory list. I don't know if the price riggers are going to try to slam the price down or not, and it doesn't matter. If you understand silver, all those reasons that people are going to have to keep buying silver are in place. They are not stopping. We're not going to stop producing electric cars. We're not going to stop producing solar power or anything. All that is already baked in the cake. So it is very different. And there's no big stockpiles like, in 1980, there was the 3 billion ounces supposedly the U.S. government had. With the J.P. Morgan thing, that was all a derivative game, and J.P. Morgan had been building up physical silver and got busted for rigging the prices, but it took a lot later. And then now here we are again, and this time we will run through 50. I don't think it could go below 40 again, but if it does, I don't care, because it'll jack right back up. It will be an artificial price suppression. And I'll go over where the banks stand on that. But go to roadrunner.com, click subscribe today, and check it out. I'll talk to you guys later.